Well, hello there, fellow geeks and geekettes, and welcome to another video in which I'll be focusing on manga. Because, as many other people, I believe, I'm quite a newbie into manga, and I want to share with you my experience, or experiences with the medium. I started reading manga when all this world craziness broke out last March, was it? Yes. And it really has indeed to a certain extent changed my life, because I have always been a voracious reader all my life. I've always read novels and comic books. I've always enjoyed poetry and prose. I read almost everything, as far as genres go or formats. I've got my own favorites, but in general, I could say that I love reading. I am a literature aficionado, let's say. But before last March, I had always avoided manga for one simple reason. I knew for some strange reason that manga would instantly become one of my obsessions, and my reading list is always too long as it is. It is a constant. My reading list is never getting any shorter. It's only getting longer and longer and longer. And I knew that if I started reading manga, it would immediately become twice or thrice as longer as it is. And indeed, it happened. But nevertheless, I did decide to delve into manga a little bit, and it has already been about 10 months. But because I read so many things, I read novels, I read comics, good old comics, not many contemporary comic book titles, and poetry and stuff like that, I haven't read as many manga titles as I would be able to during these 10 months if I only focused on the Japanese comic books. I've only read the entire series of Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball from 1988. I've read a good chunk of Berserk. I've finished, I think, 3 or 5, is it, of the deluxe editions published by Dark Horse. I've read some Beastars, which is quite a new title. I've read some of the Pokemon Red and Blue manga. I read Witch Hat Atelier, the first volume and a half, and some bits and pieces. Now, so obviously, as you can hear, it's not much. I've still got a long way to go, but what I can already tell you is that so far my favorite manga of all time, of those that I read, is Dragon Ball, for many reasons. Because it's a typical Shonen Jump type manga, an adventurous story about a young boy, Son Goku, who is almost a miraculous boy because he, as from what I heard and read, many other Shonen Jump heroes, is almost a superhero with very good skills and abilities to learn martial arts. But at the same time, that manga, Dragon Ball, is unbelievably cute and a perfect escapist book. You can lose yourself in the world of Dragon Ball completely and forget about the bleak and dark outside world for, well, at least a couple of minutes, because this is also one of the differences between books and comics and manga that I've discovered. You can read manga very quickly. Like, you can read this in like 10 minutes. So it's not very common for a book or a comic book, I mean a collected edition, a trade paperback, let's say, of at least 160 pages, to read it in 10 minutes. Manga is very much art oriented. As you can see, there is not much. Well, there is on this page, but what I meant by the art oriented is that there is a lot of pictures. I wanted to say and no man and not many words, but here you can see once again a lot of words. But for some reason, it is much easier and much quicker to read a volume of manga than to read a volume of a, let's say, an American or a European comic book. Now, some people from the West might find it a bit difficult at the beginning to read manga because it's obviously read from right to left rather than from left to right. I It wasn't a problem for me. I started reading it, and it took me like just like 3 or 4 pages to get used to it, and it hasn't made any real problems since then. Some people might not like the fact that almost all manga is black and white. No problem for me either. I do enjoy black and white comic books as well as colored comic books. So these technical aspects of manga isn't really any problem for me. It is very different from the Western comic books, but that I think might be what I also enjoy about it, because it is so much different and because it was something new for me. So the Dragon Ball being an action-packed adventure story about Son Goku, a very likable character who goes through his own journey and character development, is very important, because I always say that if you want to write a good story, you need to write it good. You need to have an interesting story. You need to have an intriguing main protagonist, main character, who goes through some sort of journey and who goes through character development and goes through trials and tribulations. So you can feel sorry for the character, so you can empathize and sympathize with the character and maybe even identify with the character. If you compare it with, for example, the Rey character from the new Star Wars movies, she is an extremely unlikable character because she goes through practically no character development. She starts being perfect, she ends up being perfect. Whatever she touches, she can do perfectly. And that is not an intriguing character. That's why people don't care about her. So, just, teensy tiny spoiler, Son Goku starts off as being a boy living in a jungle, basically, with one of the magical Dragon Balls, and ends up as basically God, or a character who was able to defeat a godlike being in fight. So, and throughout the 16 volumes of the original Dragon Ball, written and illustrated by Akira Toriyama, he, of course, as it is the case with a lot of Shonen Jump manga titles, he met a lot of characters on his way. A lot of them became his friends, some of them became his enemies. But what is important is that I did not get bored for a single second while reading the 16 volumes of the original Dragon Ball, and the ending only left me looking forward to the sequel, Dragon Ball Z, which I'm going to start reading very soon as the first couple of volumes arrive in mail. So yeah, that's it. And I've even got T-shirt with the original Dragon Ball character. So that's how much I like the manga. Yeah, so that's it. That has been my journey. Number 2, I would say that Berserk, definitely, because it's completely different from Dragon Ball. It's a dark fantasy manga with very graphic sexual and violent scenes, but masterfully written, masterfully drawn, with, once again, characters that you can identify with, characters that you can sympathize with and empathize with. And the Eclipse Saga, Jesus Christ, if you want to read something shocking, read Berserk. So yeah, these would be my 2 recommendations for a good manga read. A recommendation from a newbie who still has a long way to go and a lot of books to read, and I haven't got bored by manga, and I don't suppose I ever will, because there's one more difference between manga and the modern American comic books. Manga is very much, as I said, art oriented and also very good story oriented, which means that the mangaka, the writers and artists who write and draw manga, they are very much focusing on the storytelling, and they don't really care, or at least as far as what I read, they don't really care about the inclusion and representation aspect and diversity. They don't put the story and the quality of the product aside so they can just focus on some sort of crazy construct of the 2020 and 2021. And these are the reasons, the main reasons, why I love manga so much so far, and why Dragon Ball and Berserk are so far my favorite manga titles. So what do you think, my friends? Do you read manga? Have you read any manga titles? Have you been reading manga for a long time, or just for quite a short time, such as I have been? Let me know in the comments down below. I do enjoy receiving comments, and I do reply to every comment because I like the interaction with other literature aficionados, and of course because YouTube is not very much fond of free speech oriented YouTubers such as I am. Please help me beat the algorithm and like this video if you liked it, or dislike this video if you didn't like it, and subscribe to this unimportant channel of an unimportant geek talking about unimportant things, and hit that notification bell so you can get notifications for many more videos to come. I will be tracing my journey with manga in the future among many other videos. So yeah, see you soon in yet another video, and bye.